I'm Lisa. I'm 53 and I'm originally from Pennsylvania. For fun, I really enjoy learning about health and fitness and working out and anything health and fitness related. I've always been that way. I run every day, I walk every day, I do weight training. Whatever I can do to challenge my body, I love doing it. I'm a director for one of the largest healthcare organizations in the world, and I have teams all over the country, and I've been there 11 years and I love it. I had never heard of endometrial cancer. I didn't even know what an endometrium was, which sounds very sad being into health and fitness, but I really didn't. No one ever talked about that. I knew what a uterus was. I didn't know what an endometrium was. I was like, where is that even located? I am excited to be here today so that other women don't have to be as surprised as I was to know that they even have an endometrium, and to really, raise awareness so that people can insist on some other diagnostic testing and going for help when they have symptoms instead of just accepting that everything's fine.
Hi, my name is Angie Aguirre. I'm also known as Angie. To actually a lot of people, I'm Angie. I am 42 years old and I am a manicurist, nail artist, all of the above, and I've been doing that since the age of 13. What I love most about my job is the creativity that I'm able to express on the fingernails. As I'm learning about endometrial cancer, I realize that there is no one person. There's not a look to it. There's not an ethnicity to it. There isn't, it's not a one size fits all, disease. And so I would like to speak to as many people as possible to see what their story is like, to see if others can kind of relate to it. That way it's easier for us to diagnose or maybe get an answer. Other people may be going through it and don't know. Somehow we've curated a safe space because you're either one-on-one with someone who doesn't have a bias, or maybe you're in a room with other people who actually have gone through the same thing. You never know. Maybe someone's gone through it too. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Angie.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, excited to finally meet you in person and kind of like delve in a little, right? Be able to teach more people about endometrial cancer. So thank you for allowing me to ask you questions and do your nails at the same time.
Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to tell my story.
So I am gonna ask, my first question is, if it's not too personal, how old were you when you were first diagnosed?
It was right around my birthday, so it was right before my birthday, so I was 51.
It's important for me to help teach people that there's no age to this. It doesn't look like a certain...
Well, usually they think that women that have this kind of cancer are older and overweight, and that stigma is still around today, because my oncologist just last week said, how did you get this kind of cancer? She said, you must have been much heavier before. And I said, no, I wasn't.
Right. Actually, I walk not 3 miles a day. So
there's a lot of stigma around this particular kind of cancer, which I had never heard of until I got.
Yeah. Before you were diagnosed, what feelings or symptoms did you have that made you go to the doctor and check out, like if something was wrong?
Well, so initially I was just having periods every 2 weeks, which, seemed like a lot. So I didn't really go to the doctor for that because I thought that was just normal for me, because that's what everybody kept telling me. Well, this is just normal for you because maybe you're starting to get into perimenopause, so periods are going to be less regular. So don't really worry about that.
Okay.
But I actually went for vanity reasons because my sex drive wasn't as great. So.
Okay. I mean, we need to know that, right?
So I went to the doctor and she said, well, you're around this age, and so what we want to do is pellets. You're going to feel like a new woman. So around that time, I would have been like 49 or 50.
Okay.
Pellets are bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
Gotcha.
And they literally inject estrogen and testosterone into your hip.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a surgical procedure. And so I was going for that every 3 months because they told me that that would help with my symptoms.
How long did you do that for?
Until I got cancer.
Oh my God.
all the women, you know, at the nail salon and the hair salon, and they told me about it, and it was really helpful, and
Yeah.
just took those symptoms away. So I thought, well, I want to do it too.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyhow, so they were thinking that the excessive bleeding was related to the pellets or just perimenopause.
Okay. Oh my God. First of all, I'd never heard of pellets, and you know, women don't like to talk about estrogen levels. It's like a keep it a secret kind of thing, right? Not knowing that that may have something to do with why you feel the way you feel. Oh my God. From the time that you did the pellets to the time you were diagnosed, what was that time frame?
It was about 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah, of just going to different doctors and saying, hey, I don't think I should be bleeding all the time. And they were just like, oh, we'll just adjust the pellets or stop the pellets, and, you know, we'll do just testosterone. Or I just kept being told everything was fine. But they did do a pap smear,
Okay.
which was normal, and a colposcopy, which is a biopsy of your cervix.
Okay.
And that was normal too. So I just thought, everything's fine. There's nothing that could be wrong with me because my blood work is normal. I thought if someone has cancer, they're going to have bad blood work. Something's going to be irregular, but everything was fine. And I felt fine. So other than the bleeding, like I didn't feel sick. I felt
You didn't
great.
have pain or anything?
I did have pain, but I've had pain my whole life from my periods.
Cramps
And
and
so
things
I
like
just
that.
thought that's just how I am.
Okay.
So I have always just, I guess, not really paid attention to my body and just toughed it out. It's just kind of the generation I grew up in. Just keep moving.
Yeah. My God. So when you were diagnosed, how many doctors had you gone to before you were?
I went to, I'm not going to name them, I think like four doctors.
And the very last one is who diagnosed you.
So the last one was the first one. So the last one was the one that initially did the pellets. Just my regular gynecologist. She's the one that recommended the pellets. And she's the one that said, well, now I think we should do an endometrial biopsy now that your symptoms are much more severe. And I was like, what is an endometrial biopsy?
Right.
You just did a biopsy. And she said, well, it's deeper inside of your body and it's inside your uterus. And so she did it right there in her office. And I wasn't even worried about it. Like she did the biopsy and I didn't think about it again because I was
You had gone through so much already.
And I was sure that I was fine. So I just went about my life and I didn't even give that biopsy a second thought. But then when my phone rang at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning and it was the doctor, I knew something was not good.
Right.
So so she told me on the phone.
Now, this may be like a dumb question, but no, because everyone handles news differently, right? How did you feel when she told you? Was the bedside manner there? Was it like harsh? Was it, you know?
No, I mean, she was nice. And I was, I think I lost my mind for a little bit. I like literally ran around my house screaming.
Oh my God.
I did. It was horrible.
Rightfully so, though, because you had gone through this whole time thinking that
everything's fine. They just
Right.
kept telling me this is just part of getting older. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Just, you know, it'll be fine. As you get older, it'll be fine.
And then what was the next step after that, after finding out?
So right after that, I had to go see a gynecological oncologist. So I did go to several different practices before I ended up with the place that did my surgery.
Okay.
And so everyone immediately wanted to do a radical hysterectomy. So I didn't want to do that. So I traveled and went to many different doctors, and time was going on because I got diagnosed on March 13th and I didn't have surgery scheduled right away. So literally gynecological oncologists were calling me themselves, like on my cell phone, asking me if I was actually going to get this organ removed because they knew I had cancer.
Where were you in terms of like cancer? Like, was it like 1, 2?
So it did not leave the uterus, so it was in the uterus. But you don't know that until after surgery. So you do not find that out until after surgery. So when you get a diagnosis of cancer, you know nothing. And
Gotcha.
it's just real anxious until you have surgery.
Okay.
And then it's real anxious after surgery because you don't find out until they do the pathology. So for me, you know, I got diagnosed in March 13th. I didn't find out my real diagnosis until April 30th.
So you
Even though I had surgery on April 17th, I didn't know anything about what kind of cancer or what was it until the end of April.
okay. And the rest of your family, like, how did you tell them?
It's kind of a blur. I have two sons. Right now they're 24 and 21. So it was 17 months ago. So they would have been 23 and 20.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just told them and they were crying. Everybody
Yeah.
was really scared and sad and worried.
Yeah. And where are you now with them? Like, how do they? Because you don't look like what people would think you should look like after going through cancer. Where are you guys now in terms of like how they handle you? You know, sometimes people can handle you with white gloves because they don't know, right, how to deal themselves.
So my older son, I think my older son thinks I'm a little nuts, to be honest, because, you know, I chose to go vegan and organic, and I'm really, really strict with anything that I put near my body or on my body or eat.
So you became vegan after your diagnosis? So your whole lifestyle changed?
Oh, my whole lifestyle changed 100%. Yeah. I stopped pushing myself as hard with working out because I was really pushing myself a lot with working out. And if I ate something, you know, fattening or whatever, I would work out an extra hour. I mean, I was really intense. So I was really pushing myself, and that was hurting my immune system, and I didn't know that. So I learned a lot about foods that can contribute to cancer and cancer pathways. So I stopped eating all of those foods, and I got special water, and I have a sauna in my house now.
How has cooking been since?
It's been fun, actually. I've learned a lot. I definitely cook way different than I ever did before, but I have a lot of great cookbooks, and I watch a lot of videos, and I make very interesting foods.
Okay. Do your kids eat it?
No.
No.
No. We need to figure out how to get back to family dinners. They're a little
Yeah, I
stressful.
was just about to ask. Yeah. Okay. So since you've gotten your surgery, what happened after surgery? Like, what was so having the surgery doesn't remove the cancer? Is that how that works?
It did. It did remove it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it was a very interesting story for me, different than a lot of people. So I was told that I had a certain kind of cancer called serous, SEROUS, which is supposed to be very deadly and aggressive. And I was told to, do conventional treatment immediately, or I would be dead. That's literally what the doctor said.
Okay, so this is something new. I didn't know that there were different kind of endometrial.
Oh, there are a lot of different kinds of endometrial cancer. So the most common is endometrioid.
How many, you say you joined a support group?
And I host a support group too.
Oh, nice. Where did you start finding out information about endometrial cancer after being diagnosed? Like, when you start to delve?
I just went to the website and I found Share Cancer Support.
Okay.
And I talked to the woman that runs that, and she took my phone calls every day for a long time and was just so supportive and helpful. And she really got me through it. And then I found a docu-series, and I watched it over and over again, and that really gave me strength and gave me hope that I would be okay. Because I think hope is the most important thing with a diagnosis like that, because if you don't have hope, you're just going to give up.
Yeah, kudos to you, because to go through it yourself and be in it and still have the energy and the courage to try to uplift others and still be around, and you decided to kind of not let that hold you back. How did your workouts change? I know you said you used to be really hard.
So that's kind of funny. So I've been able to do a headstand since I was 5 years old. And so I do a lot of headstands. And so right after surgery, I said, well, I'm just going to do a headstand like I always do. And I couldn't do it.
Oh, was your balance off?
I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the strength in my core to be standing on my head. I can again now. I can do it for you if you want. But I can do it really easy. I could stand on my head for like 10 hours.
On your head?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can stand on my head for like 10 hours. Like I could do it all day.
Do you do yoga?
I do yoga, but it's just
something
I learned it in gymnastics as a child, and it just stayed with me. And it's just something the kids always thought it was funny and cute, and so it's kind of relaxing. So that was one thing that changed, is I couldn't stand on my head right away, and I couldn't really run like I like to run. Well, I wasn't allowed to for like 8 weeks.
Did you need to do radiation?
No, I get scans every
Okay.
3 months, and I get blood work actually every month because I do have a bunch of naturopathic doctors, and so there's cancer markers. It's called a CA 125.
Okay.
So if any woman is concerned, she should just ask for that.
And that marker is for any cancer or just?
It's for gynecological cancers.
Gotcha. What is it called? The
CA 125.
CA 120.
And I tell women that in the nail salon too. I do.
I'm telling you, this is the stuff we don't know. We are
Yeah.
like, what?
Because I meet women that are having the same symptoms I'm having, and I tell them, well, you need to have an endometrial biopsy, and they don't know what it is either, so I have to explain it.
Okay.
It's really important that people understand, because I didn't even know anything. I thought, I had that biopsy of the cervix, and I
Yeah.
had the pap smear, and I had the blood work. I thought I was perfect. So it was a real shock.
Oh my God. So how do you think, well, how has it affected your mental health having endometrial cancer?
Well, I think that for anyone that is a cancer survivor, there's always, that fear, of any little ache or pain. Is it back? And just really being hyper vigilant to not have it come back. So of course my diet, my whole lifestyle, prioritizing sleep, making sure I'm hydrated. And, it's kind of like there's a before and after.
Do you feel like you're much stronger now than before?
I would say I'm much more
mentally.
I would say I'm much more informed.
Okay, we're still working on the strength. Okay, listen,
I
there's
mean,
no rush.
I'm more aware of my body and taking care of myself. Whereas before I just took my health for granted, and if I beat up on myself by working out too hard or not eating good, I just figured I had all the time in the world, it would be okay.
Gotcha. So, yeah, taking things. A lot of times I feel like as women, we do things for vanity and not so much so for how we should feel on the inside.
Yes.
But how we look out on the outside. Yeah, that's important, man. We are really hard on ourselves. That's why I enjoy having these conversations in the salon, because, we come in beat up. Sometimes you come into the salon beat up, and we're more vulnerable, right? There, and no one's judging you, and we're listening intensely. Because sometimes people join into the conversation, and then you kind of just join in, right? Not knowing that maybe this person is going through it too, or they know someone that's going through it, and you may have information that can help that person. How often do you? Because you don't go to you go to the hair salon, you said, but not the nail salon.
Yeah, not the
as
nail
you used to.
salon. Yeah. I loved the nail salon, so that's something that changed since cancer.
Okay.
Because I used to get my nails done like every 2 weeks consistently forever, and I would do
Okay.
all the holiday designs, whatever time of year it was. But since the cancer, I decided to go, all natural, so I haven't really done that. So this is really exciting to have my nails done today.
How has, after your diagnosis and after going through it, how do you feel with your husband now and your kids, and how do you move forward?
Well, I'm very blessed because a lot of women, don't survive it. So I'm just very grateful that I did survive it, and, prayerful and hopeful that it never comes back. So I believe I'm healed. So you just, you go forward just like, I'm not the same.
Yeah.
And, the kids know that. Everybody's very mindful of how I eat. So that sometimes is a little embarrassing.
How has joining a support group, how did that help you, and how does running a support group help you?
Well, I think joining a support group, of course, made me feel like I'm not alone, and all the crazy things that I'm feeling, other people were feeling. So it was nice to be, feel included. So that was good. And then, of course, getting ideas for food and, other people, they're doing the same thing. It's really refreshing to talk to them and hear their struggles and, try and help them, and they help me. So I guess just a feeling of inclusiveness.
Okay. What advice would you give to someone who was just diagnosed?
I would tell them to breathe. And I would tell them just make a really informed decision with how they move forward. So, one thing I've learned when people first get diagnosed, they just feel really helpless and out of control, really, because, no one wants to come face to face with their mortality, and a cancer diagnosis is exactly that. So they can just breathe and just kind of have some time to reflect and think about, what does this mean for my life? What do I want treatment to look like? Find a doctor they're comfortable with. So that's what I tell people, in my support groups. Yeah, just that feeling of having some control and talking to other people that have been through it. So that's helpful. It's definitely a change. I mean, and then there's a lot of feelings involved in cancer, especially if you're a survivor. You feel guilty for surviving because a lot of people don't. So then, I guess there's almost like you don't want to be too happy because you feel bad. Like, why did I get to live in these, sometimes we talk about that in the support group because, people do die of cancer.
Yeah.
But I think that early detection is really important because then it's more treatable. And so some of the signs and symptoms are bleeding, like a lot of bleeding, like soaking through a pad an hour.
So you go from spotting to bleeding.
Well, so I never really had spotting. I was just
always bleeding.
Yes, I was just always bleeding, and it was always just a lot.
Okay.
And it was like a pad an hour, and I was very surprised that I didn't have anemia, but I didn't, and they just kept telling me that was normal. But I know now that if you're soaking through a pad an hour, you definitely need to insist to see your doctor.
That is a lot.
Yeah. And then the cramping too. If you're having cramping to where it's difficult to do things you'd normally do, you probably need to see a doctor for that too.
Okay.
And then of course, any kind of clotting, you should insist on seeing your doctor.
See, it's so difficult, as a woman to because there's so many things that it's just been normal lies.
Well,
right?
yeah, especially because you've had this body your whole life.
Right.
So it's all you know. So to you, it's normal. So it's really good to talk about it, to have someone else say to you, well, maybe that's not normal. See, I did not talk about it because it's embarrassing to talk about it. It's not something you generally talk about. So I never ran that by my friends to say, hey, does this happen to you? Because I was embarrassed. But I think that if I did, then maybe I would have, maybe I would have learned about an endometrial biopsy or a CA-125 blood test. I mean, I really thought if you had cancer, you had bad blood work.
Yeah.
Something would be obvious. Like, cancer's the worst thing in the world. Like, you'd know.
Yeah.
You'd feel bad, but I felt fine. And any woman that is having any blood when she's not supposed to be definitely needs to get checked. But I mean, after cancer, it is stressful. Things are definitely not the same. There's bladder leakage and very awkward things that happen now that didn't used to happen. They took out my ovaries, which they told me I could keep, but the protocol, they insisted they take them. I was really, really sad. I still am. So now I'm on hormone replacement therapy. Very, very small amount, very watched, lots of blood work, but they took my ovaries, they took my fallopian tubes, and they took my cervix.
Wow. Did you have to go to therapy after? Like your own, mental health therapy?
I didn't. I talk about it in the support group, but it would be really nice if there were more endometrial and gynecological support groups. I haven't really found any. They're just cancer support groups. So this kind of cancer is different. So maybe I can start one.
Yeah. What are ways that can better advocate? What are ways that people can better advocate for themselves?
So I would just, if you're having any symptoms, don't just take the doctor's word for it that you're fine. Insist on additional testing, including the CA-125, the endometrial biopsy. There's also an ultrasound that would have shown a thickened endometrial lining, and that's a real sign of endometrial cancer that I didn't even know. So when I had the ultrasound and I had the thickened endometrial stripe, I thought, well, I don't know what that means. Sounds like everything's okay, but that's like a huge sign that that's cancer. So when you see the thickened endometrial stripe in an ultrasound, that usually means endometrial cancer.
It's like, you want all this information, but it can be so overwhelming too.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even, like I said, know what an endometrium was. So when I thought that, when I found out I had cancer, I was like, how can that even be? You already did a biopsy, you did blood work, you did a pap smear. How is this even possible? And then they explained that they never did an endometrial biopsy. And they never did the CA-125 blood test, so.
Did they tell you why they never did that? Or is it just you didn't have, like...
I think it was because of the whole stereotype, really because I wasn't overweight. I think that if I was overweight, I would have been treated differently.
Yeah, they need to change that. That stuff is, I think it's a false narrative now,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, it was totally missed by every doctor.
I guess they go by statistics,
Yeah.
what those are. Is endometriosis closely related to endometrial cancer?
I don't think so. You can have endometriosis and not have endometrial cancer.
Gotcha.
And you can have endometrial cancer and not have endometriosis. I didn't have endometriosis. I never had anything wrong gynecologically until I had cancer.
My goodness, okay. Whew.
So, yeah, it's just, I think that, there needs to be more diagnostic testing sooner, and we can't fall prey to stereotypes about age or, body type or anything like that. Just need to test. I mean, there's a lot of people diagnosed now, and people don't even know what it is.
We focus so much on other cancers
Yeah.
that we
Well, I mean, no one wants to talk about their private parts. It's not exactly, common conversation, I guess. Maybe we need to change that.
I think that that's why this Spot Her campaign is so important, because we need to create a safe space for people to feel comfortable and a judgment-free zone, to extend grace, You don't know what others are going through, and they're going through it by themselves. And so happy that I got to sit down and meet you in person.
Likewise. I thank you.
So
My nails
much.
look beautiful.
And thank you for letting me polish you.